Hey, yo, it's David Gregory.
And Nikki Llewellyn Gregory, and you're listening to Addicted to Betterment. It's a podcast for high achievers wired for sharpening themselves or those looking for a regular system to develop and level up their life. We've only got one shot at this life. Don't waste any opportunity to live alive and love your life. Let's do this together. Click on the follow button to make sure you get all of our episodes as they drop. Hey, it's Nikki and David. We're back on Addicted to Betterment. And have you ever heard that saying, slow down to speed up? It hits you one of two ways. You're like, okay, how does that work? Or you're like, oh my gosh, why am I not doing that more? Yes, I know this. I do believe this. And sometimes in the midst of the craziness, you know how you get in this cycle of like, life took over and I can't manage my schedule. And then someone says, well, you should probably slow down to speed up. And you're like, really? That's really what you're going to tell me right now? And it's just annoying, right? But you're like, I know it to be true. And on the other side, when you do come from that calm centered space, slow down to speed up is a brilliant strategy. So let me tell you a quick story. Started off the first of the year, as we've talked about multiple times, not in the best health mindset, all this, because we got off of a lot of our systems. The break that we took was fabulous. But the ripple effect of the break was like high anxiety, stress, not feeling out of control, and all this. So the last week of January, and let me remind you, January is like Mondays to me. Anything that's like fresh start, and I am a Capricorn, so yeah, my birthday's in January. I love the fresh start thing, the first day of the week, the first day of the new year. Well, almost all of January was pretty terrible. Like I was just stressed, overwhelmed. I've shared this. And what we did as a team was we rented a cabin, a dear friend of mine's cabin, out in some woods on water, very out in the middle of nowhere, got away in a new environment, and that retreat reset me. And I had a commitment for that. I was like, I am going out here to change my mindset. I'm going to kick my own butt in the woods and we are going to restart. And man, did it. There was no meetings on the calendar or very few, and just really got out of the normal grind to be able to see things differently and start to be like, why am I so stressed about this? And to talk things through. You know, sometimes you're just go, go, go. And it's like, okay, catch up for 15 minutes, do this, and just to sit and talk things through and be heard and hear that person. And so this retreat experience to get away, I can't talk about how valuable it was for me, but I think it is so great for everyone. And where can you apply this in your life? Get out of the norm and go get a restart, a refresh. David, talk about what this means to you. Slow down to speed up.
Let's just acknowledge that if you're listening to Addicted to Betterment, you're probably a high achiever. You run hard, and often people run hard, think, oh man, I can't take a break because, and we justify all these reasons in our mind. I'm thinking back to, I'm a basketball fan. I'm a basketball junkie. I love basketball and I love watching intense competitive basketball games. In my mind, and there's no argument. So if you have any other opinions, please don't send them to me because I don't care. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter to ever touch a basketball. And I think not the greatest player. There's I love to have that argument as well, but who the greatest player is. But the greatest shooter of all time is Steph Curry. And I remember last year, Nikki, we were watching the NBA finals, the Golden State Warriors versus the Boston Celtics. It was a super tight game. Fourth quarter, you have Steph Curry, the greatest of the greats when it comes to shooting a basketball, and Steve Kerr, the coach of the Golden State Warriors. It's the fourth quarter. This is the NBA Finals. Everything is on the line. Everything you've worked for, all the practice sessions, all the workouts, all the travel, and you are in the NBA Finals. It all comes down to this. It's the fourth quarter, and Steve Kerr pulls Steph Curry out of the game, sits him on the bench. Why would you come bring the greatest of all time, the greatest shooter in the history of the sport, pull him out of the action? Why? He has to pause. He has to take a break. What does he do while he's sitting on the bench? He gets water. He refreshes his mind, refreshes his body, sees the defense and what they're playing and what the other team is doing, is able to do it from the sideline and think and refresh himself so that when he gets back in the game, back in the fourth quarter and comes back in, he's able to perform at the level which makes him the greatest of all time. But he wouldn't be able to do that without the pause.
I love that. And I remember sharing with you when you shared this story with me prior that I heard this quote. even professional athletes take halftime.
Mm.
It's like, "Oh, that's so good." They're less than 1% of humanity, and they have to take a halftime, and they're like machines, you know? So, just yes, profound. Now, normally, we start these episodes going down the path of our kinda talk track around why, but I'm gonna flip it a little bit because I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed or consumed or busy that it's in this case, it's like, but how do I even get out of the grind to find time to pause? So we're going to start there for a second. What do you say, David, to somebody that's like, but okay, yeah, all of this sounds great, but like, how do I even get out of that to be able to find time to pause?
So first ask yourself, why can you not pause? So generally speaking, oh, my schedule's too hectic. I'm traveling too much. I have kids and I'm running kids around, or I'm work schedule, or we make all these excuses in our head, and we can always find reasons why we just don't have time to pause. Or maybe my goals are too big and I've got to work harder. I've got to go harder. I've got to, whatever it is. But honestly, if you really look at those reasons, they're usually excuses. It's what's important to us. What is our priority? And if we understand the importance of pausing, usually those reasons or excuses that we make in our head are something we can work around.
Yes. And I think when it comes to how do I get out of the grind, it is blocking time and making it a priority. It's as simple as that. And on the walking into normally how we start these episodes, why is pause a power play? Why should we prioritize the pause? This is a very simple answer as well. And I have to take and eat my own lunch on this because I prioritize my health and well-being and I need a pause in order to be great and to have emotional intelligence and to be grounded and to be centered. David, what do you want to add on the why?
Well, man, that's something. As you were talking, I was thinking back to, I remember last year we were in a funk. Our gym had closed and we were trying to find a new gym, and we weren't happy with the gym we were working out. And we both live very busy schedules with kids and work and life. And I know our schedules are super busy. And I remember you and I were headed to dinner, and I asked you this question. I said, if you had to name the top 5 priorities in our life, what are the top 5 things that's most important to us? And your answer was our faith, our relationship, our health. And I don't remember exactly what the type for 5 were, but I said, if our fitness is in the top 5, we're sure not acting like it. And often, if you just simply write down what your top priorities in your life are, and we sometimes justify our actions to think we need to work harder or go harder, but exactly what you said, you got to prioritize that rest, that health, that break in order to be great in the other areas.
Yes, so good. And when I think of, what is the mindset that we take around embracing pause as a power play, this is the one liner. It's more important to be than to do. As an achiever, it's one of the hardest things I've struggled with. I am an action and I will stand by. Taking action on things is core to who I am and how I believe that people should move in life, right? But what trumps doing is being before you can do. What does that look like? Well, prayer, meditation, morning routine, having a strong, like, rooted conversation with a counselor or confidant, the things that we do to center ourselves to be before we do is exponentially powerful.
So think about it this way: if you pause with the same intentionality that you grind. So, something I try to practice and I try to encourage you to do with me, simply, you are one of the hardest workers that I know, one of the most driven people, and live a life that is a pretty fast pace. And I do the same. So, if you think in terms of the thing that is consuming most of your energy, if you can take a break, completely take a break from that. So let's say you're a parent, and man, the kids are taking up so much of our time and energy and effort, and they do and they should. That's part of being a parent. You're giving all of your effort, your energy, and your time to your kids. Take a day with your spouse, your significant other, whoever it is, and get a babysitter, get someone to watch the kids, and take a break from that completely. Disconnect from it. Let the grandparents, let babysitters, someone know, hey, you're going to take care of the kids and we are going to completely disconnect from it. I promise you, if you do that well with the same intentionality that you give to your parenting, your kids will thank you. You'll be a better parent when you come back. Let's say you're a business owner or you're leading a bunch of people and you're constantly on your phone, you're constantly in the grind, you're constantly trying to, as you should, you have to in order to be successful. But at some point, you have to be as intentional about putting that aside. And I love the analogy, Nikki, that you used about the retreat that you did with your team. You have to set all of that aside, completely disconnect from it, let that sit and rest from the action of that. And when you come back to leading those people, you come back to running that business, you'll be refreshed, you'll be energized, you'll have a clear perspective. And the people you lead, your business will thank you. The results will be profound.
Let's bring this to life. So, what does this look like as it applies to our life wheel or our various areas of life? I was just kind of thinking through this myself. So, health, nature, slow walks, stillness, just sitting in stillness, breath work, right? Those things are grounding effort activities. And I would call them pause opportunities. So, what are yours? Like when you think of your health and what it means to pause with your health. And let's look at this as at two sides, your health and making sure that you are meeting your nutrition and fitness goals. Fitness is, maybe some days you go as hard as you can with your aerobic exercise and you have a good sweat. That's very different than pausing, right? But it is a health aspect for you that you need to incorporate. Now, on the flip side, another area of our health in tying into this pause is really the calmness, eliminating the noise and just the go go go. And so what is that for you? For me, I know that when I go out in nature, I am a better person. I know that when I do a slower walk that is not about getting points on my Apple Watch cuz David knows we probably talked about this on here before that when I am walking as fast as I can to get as many points as I can and looking at my watch to track that versus on the flip side when it's not about the health goal of achieving my Apple Watch points, it is using that walk as an opportunity for me to be centered and be, right? Another example that I have is David and I engaged a financial advising team this year. We meet with them once a month and it's at least an hour and a half each meeting. And every time that I'm going there, I hope nobody on the other end takes this the wrong way. Love you guys. But every time I'm going there, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. Oh dear. And I'm walking in, I'm just like, it's so hard for me to like go and do this sit and plan and all this. And then I walk out and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. These three things that we're doing, it's helping me achieve our financial goals for our future that we've never done. But it's this pause to sit and talk through things. And what that looks like in the financial space is sometimes like, where did that thinking come from as a child for financial beliefs? Mm, okay. I wouldn't have done that on my own. Or pausing to think about what does 5 years out look like, 10 years out look like, and really get that in mind. We have an episode coming soon about dreaming and no limits. So we'll tie in some of that when it comes to financials. But it's the sitting in the stillness and these calm conversations that help to really expand our just possibilities, if you will, because we're pausing.
So you mentioned how fast you walk generally. So to anyone who might at some point be in Indianapolis and you see some lady flying, walking, it's pretty impressive. I think you walk faster than some cars drive. And you see some man, I don't even know what you want to call it, half sprinting, half walking. Anyone who ever sees that, feel free to send me a text and make fun of me. We can get through a grocery store faster than anyone alive. And so I apologize to anyone that we've cut off in the grocery line due to our fast pace. And, when you talked about taking time for meditation, being still, you mentioned that is so powerful. Most of us with TV, with our phones, we're always connected. So that is one thing I love that you said. And I would encourage anyone who is unfamiliar with that to try it. Try pausing, meditation, turn some meditation music on, breath work. There's all kinds of videos out there. We've recently got into that. And the power of being still and just focusing on your breath, or a still mind. And the way that pause clears your mind and refreshes you for the day. And we both have examples where that's changed our mindset or changed the way, we're dreading the day. And much like you, often we kind of dread the pause. We dread that pause because we just want to keep pushing through, and understanding that it's not often a hard workout. We both love going to the gym, but it's actually disconnecting and breaking and pausing and resting from the things in life that we're giving so much energy to.
And so I just want to throw out, I try to do this in every episode. It's the whole do as we say, not as we do sometimes, because this addicted to betterment is this ever going, ever evolving journey to strive for this stuff. It's like, what have we learned? Now, are we applying this? So let me give you an example as David was talking about the walking thing and just how I'm wired to a level of annoying. So at the grocery store, yeah, and so poor Dave, like, I think about David and sometimes the things, and I tell him sometimes, I am so annoying. And at the same time, I appreciate myself, but I love to, like, center in the fact that I realize that I'm being super annoying about this right now. So, when it comes to the grocery store and my Apple Watch, before I get out of the car, give myself a time goal for how long I'll be in there. And so, literally, before I go into the grocery store, I know what I'm getting. I have a list, and I have a goal in mind, looking at my car clock to get back in, have my groceries in my car by that certain time. Now, this is the opposite of pause and living with serenity, right? So sometimes this works really well where I'm very tight on a schedule, but on other times it's super annoying and it's the opposite of pausing. It's like, Nikki, sometimes you can just go to the grocery store and you can like breathe and enjoy looking around at the produce because David loves the produce section. And so just hang with them there. And so, just poking fun for a minute. Like this is one of the just to say that my entire January was super challenging. I was like living at I don't know, not a great place of like you say one wrong thing, I'm going to snap. I just was not centered. And I knew I had to go get reset, get out and pause at that cabin in the woods. And since I've come back, I'm feeling a lot more centered. I'm a lot more on schedule and really have kicked off the goals that I wanted to at the beginning of the year. But all that to say, it's like this is an ever evolving journey. And it's around why would we find time to pause? How do we? And the how is about scheduling it because you're a priority and it's about your health and wellness.
One of the things I was thinking, and I love doing this with you, is I was reminded of a conversation I had last week with someone very close to me. And I encouraged him and his wife to pause as a couple, to actually do it together. So, one of the most gratifying, fulfilling things you can do that is both fulfilling and rejuvenating is you're a husband and wife, or your partner's in a relationship, and you're each individually focused on your own grind and the things you're trying to accomplish and the things you're trying to achieve, and you're meeting in the middle and you're both pursuing goals, to be very intentional about scheduling something that completely both people completely disconnect from the regular grind, and then get back in to their own individual things. But to do that as a couple and do that together, so that both people get to experience that rest, that disconnect, that mental. I look at it as mental, physical, emotional. Let all of that disconnect and rest and refresh, so that when you get back into battle, the grind, the push, you're completely rejuvenated and rested. Doing that together as a couple is, try it. It's worth it.
I mean, we are recording right now on a Friday, and we had a surprise that we don't have kids tonight. So it might just be one of those. And what that looks like for us is we literally like put our phones out of our life. And kind of like we talked about on date nights, you're at dinner, take off your distractions, put your phone or your watch away to be present. Gosh, it's funny how hard that is sometimes, but it's also so simple. And it's the best date night because you did that, or such an extraordinary date night because you did that. Same thing with, let's say, weekend time, and just get rid of the phone, get rid of the connectivity, and Focus on just being together. Like there's be, do, have, give, the way I kind of see how we show up. And like I said, just how I'm wired is do, do, do. But what comes before that is be. And that is right in alignment with what we're talking about. Pause, be centered in who you're here to be.
So let's just recap all of this together. Understanding in order to have the best power play, you have to pause. So, 3 challenges. 1, remember, even the greatest have to pause. Even the greatest at everything have to take a break, have to pause. Number 2, pause with the same intentionality that you grind. Give the same intention and the same time to your pause, to your break, as you do to the grind. Number 3, and most important, disconnect from the things that you give the most energy to. The things that you're pushing the hardest, take time to pause. Do it. You will thank yourself for taking time to pause the power play. So, you just listened to this episode. Now, join us in being addicted to betterment. Subscribe to the show, share with your friends, tag us, and please take a moment, leave a review. Yeah, we do want your stars, but we really want the feedback.